So friends, today in this session we are going to discuss about the biodiversity conservations. Now let us first discuss about which are the main reason for conservations. So reasons for the conservation are distributed into three major divisions. Now first division is narrow utilitarian arguments, and second is broadly utilitarian arguments, and third one is the ethical arguments. Now this is based on how important the conservation is. For an example, if I am talking about narrow utility, it is straightway concerned with the economical importance, specifically from where we can get some kind of economical benefits out of our nature. And to continue with this kind of benefits, we are supposed to conserve our nature, and that is what known as narrowly utilitarian arguments. But if I am talking about the broad spectrum of this utility, then it is concerning about the interconnection between various species with reference to ecology, with reference to ecosystem. We are getting huge benefits which are not countable. For example, level of oxygen what we are getting to live from this kind of producers. We cannot measure, we cannot count the economical value of it. So that is called broadly utilitarian arguments. So if we wish to continue those kind of benefits out of our nature, we are supposed to conserve the nature continuously. And last one is ethical. We should not disturb the nature with reference to overutilization, and this is the reason why we should conserve them. One species is definitely straightway or indirectly depending on the other for several reasons. So if we are disturbing a particular type of species, we are actually disturbing so many species which are concerned or which are correlated with each other. So these are the few reasons why we should conserve our nature. So please take the screenshot. Now the first reason for conserving the nature is narrow type of utilitarian or utilitarian arguments. Now if I talk about these sort of discussion, we as a human are deriving huge sort of economic benefits from the nature, such as food, firewood, fibers, construction material, industrial process products like tannins, lubricants, dyes, resins and perfumes, and lastly medicines. So these products, if we wish to get for longer period of time, that is continuously, we should definitely conserve the nature much as possible. So this is one of the most important reason why we should conserve the nature, and this is based on the narrow utility, countable utility. More than 25% of the drugs right now, if I'm talking about the medicines, more than 25% of the drugs are derived from the plants, which are getting from the plants, and those plants are important or the base factor of the structure of ecosystem. 25,000 species of the plants have medicinal values, what we have identified till now. Ready? So this is the narrow spectrum of utility, countable spectrum of the utility, and due to this importance, we should definitely conserve the nature to get them continuous, generation by generation, for the longer period of the time, longer possible period of the time on the earth, right? So this is narrow utilitarian or utilitarian arguments. Take the screenshot. Now second is broadly utilitarian arguments, that shows a broad spectrum. Now it is straightway connected with ecosystem. So definitely, so we are focusing right now on ecosystem services. We have broadly discussed about all the services we are getting from ecosystem in the chapter ecosystem. It was the last topic of the same chapter. So biodiversity, if is very huge, very vast, then ecosystem services what we are getting is at the large scale. But if the biodiversity is limited into a particular ecosystem, we get the limited ecosystem services. So it is straightway proportionate to the biodiversity. So biodiversity plays major role in almost all ecosystem services. Example which is given, if you see, Amazon forest produces 20% of the total oxygen in the earth's atmosphere. So it is called lungs of the earth. So only single forest which is present in Amazon, that is rainforest, it has the ability of production of 20% of the total atmosphere which is present into the atmosphere. Second example is about pollination through bees, bumblebees, birds or bats. Now if this pollination is not done by, for example, bees, as we know that almost 90% plants are pollinated by bees with their method of collecting the nectar, they are indirectly spreading the pollens and playing important role in the pollination. So pollination through bees or bumblebees or birds or bats, they are playing actually indirect role in spreading varieties of the plant species around ecosystems. So as I said earlier that bees are playing important role for spreading or for the pollination of approximately 90% of the flowering plants, which is very, very, very important, right? And third is aesthetic pleasure. So these are the services with reference to ecological importance which are maintained by the biodiversity, and that is the reason why biodiversity is very, very important. So with this point of view as well, we are supposed to conserve the nature for continuous period of the time. So please take the screenshot. And the last one is ethical arguments. Now, as we have discussed that in a particular ecosystem, we have many of the species which are having their interrelationship. Many of the species are directly, or many of the species are indirectly concerned with each other. So in that way, we can say each and every species has their intrinsic value within that ecosystem. This way or that way, they are important into an ecosystem. So it is actually our moral duty to take care of each and every species and their well-beingness. So this is also an important logical review, logical thought and logical aspect that we should conserve our nature and we should take care of even a smallest species present into an ecosystem. Please take the screenshot. Now, if I am talking about the conservation, types of conservation is differentiated into two basic categories. First category is in-situ conservation and second category is ex-situ conservation. So these are the two basic methods by which we can conserve our nature. Now, if we are taking care of the nature on its own particular home, habitat or site, it is called in situ, that is on site conservation. But if we are taking our concerned species from one place to other with respect to their conservation, then it is called ex situ or off site conservation. So various types of methods which are used with reference to either in situ or ex situ conservations, and we are going to see them one by one now. So let us first see about the in situ conservation, that is on site conservation. The conservation of genetical resources, that is species. Now, why species is termed as genetical resources? Because each of the species which is present in a particular habitat or environment or ecosystem is having particular gene pool. We know what gene pool is. It is total set of genome which is present into particular species. So they have particular type of genome, and that genome may be different with specific locations of the genes or particular arrangement into the nuclear material, but they remains almost equal with respect to their size, their content, and that is why that genome which is present into a particular species type of genome it is called genetical resources. So conservation of genetic resource within natural or man-made ecosystem in which they occur. So we are supposed to conserve them at the original place where they belongs to. Now it includes protected area where the protection is provided. For example, number one, national park. Number 2, sanctuaries. Number 3, biosphere reserves. Number 4, cultural landscapes, and last, natural monuments. Now, as far as India is concerned, we have 14 biosphere reserve, 90 national parks, and 448 wildlife sanctuaries. Ready? So these are few basic facts which are related to types of in situ conservation, where you are protecting a particular species, you are conserving the nature at their own home. That is why it is known as on-site or in situ conservation. And let us discuss the types of all of them one by one. Please take this screenshot. Very first is the national park. Now, national park is what? It is a particular area which is strictly reserved for welfare of the wildlife, where private ownership activities like cultivation, grazing, anything is prohibited. Right? Now, entire set of wildlife which is present in that particular area is conserved. None of these species can be touchable without permission. If these kind of protection is provided in a particular area, then and then only it is said to be national park. Ready? So, national park includes all the species in that particular area is conserved. For example, the Iraviculam National Park in the Kerala, which is given into the the snaps which are given at the lower end of the slide. So, if you can see, there is no home you can see into the entire landscapes. Ready? So, that is why all the species they are conserving with a particular type of arrangement, particular type of we can say they are reserving with a type of set of rules. So, you are supposed, if you want to be a part of study this kind of national park, you are supposed to get the permission, and without permission no one is allowed to enter even for studies, right. So, living is the very far away process, but even without permission you could not be able to touch or study any of the species there. So, that is the story about national park. Please take the screenshot. Now comes the sanctuary. Sanctuary is the place or the area in which the protection is given to only animals, not all the species of the plant or the other species. Ready? So, only animals are conserved in that particular area. Operations like collection of timbers, minor forest products, private ownerships rights are allowed, right. That is a difference between sanctuary and national park. So, operations which are concerning with human activities are allowed with some limitation. So, as long as they do not interfere, which limitation? As long as they do not interfere with well-being of the animal. If that disturbs the life cycle of animals which are conserved, it is not allowed. If they do not disturb, then it is allowed. So this is the reason why sanctuary is different than the national park. So few activities are allowed into sanctuary and only animals are conserved into the sanctuary. An example is again within the Kerala, the Periyar Wildlife Sanctuary, right? So please take the screenshot. The Periyar National Park is given into the snaps which is given at the downside of the slide. Now third is Biosphere Reserve. Ready? It is the area, maybe land, maybe coastal region. So land or coastal environments to conserve a particular ecosystem and genetic resources, that is species, contained therein. So if entire ecosystem, not a particular state or particular area, the entire ecosystem is conserved, then it is said to be biosphere reserve. For example, if I am talking about ghats, two ghats what we have is, one is eastern ghat, one is western ghat, which may include so many different states. For example, it also contains Tamil Nadu, it also to the West Bengal. For example, if I am talking about the eastern ghat, starting from Tamil Nadu to Karnataka to it is ending at the West Bengal. So it contains many of the states, right, from its starting point to its end point. So it is a wider or larger area of an ecosystem, and it is conserving all the genetical resources within that area. So that kind of conservation method is known as biosphere reserve. So definitely example what we have seen, our ghats, Himalayan region, right? These are the few examples of these kind of biosphere reserves. Main example which are quoted here, number 1, Nanda Devi, Sundarban, Nilgiri and Munnar. These are the best example to be studied. Please take the screenshot. Now as far as history is concerned, our ancient kings or the people who were ruling in the past, they were also concerning hugely on conservation of the nature, and that is the reason why they also have shown the interest in a particular area to be conserved. So they have kept a particular area with their sacred types of interest, but they have actually kept those area undisturbed, where they have connected with their sentiments, with their religion importance, and those kind of area which are concerned like that, right? It is called sacred forest or sacred groves. So they conserve the nature with respect, or they are actually considering them as a god. They have a particular area for the worships as well, may be present in some of the area. Otherwise, entire area is like it is take it as the temple. The forest is itself their temple, and nature is their god. They believe like that. So this is how the entire forest can be conserved without keeping the watch as well. So if religion is concerned with a matter, the less efforts can be made with respect to conservation, because everything is human activities which are disturbing the nature. So if they are concerned with, if the areas are concerned with the psychology of religion, then humans are less attracted to disturb them, and that is why they are conserved more commonly without putting in efforts. So this kind of sacred forests are found throughout the area of India, which are common in India. There are so many of these kind of sacred forests are found. So they are protected by several tribal communities. The example which are given here is number 1, sacred groves in Khasi and Jayantiya hills in Meghalaya. Second example which is given, Aravalli in Rajasthan. Third one, Western Ghat of Karnataka and Maharashtra. And fourth example, Sarguja, Chanda and Bastar area of Madhya Pradesh. They all are actually worshipped as the god. So this area are known as sacred forests. So entire species of that area are protected in that respect. Please take the screenshot. Now comes the ex-situ conservation, that is off-site. So as we know that when a particular type of species are collected and transported from one place to the other, and then they are conserved, then it is called off-site or ex-situ conservation. So conservation of organism outside their habitats, outside their natural homes, it is called ex-situ conservation. The types: number 1, genetic resource center; number 2, zoological park; number 3, botanical gardens; and gene banks. So one by one, if we see them, we definitely are aware with so many other examples and so many common examples as well. So if I talk about conserving the nature by human activities artificially but with natural way, it is called ex-situ conservation, right? So let us discuss about various examples. Please take the screenshot. The very important and the first attempt is made by defining hotspots. Now what is hotspot? It is the area which is richest and most threatened reservoir maybe for the plants or animals. So, any of the species is more threatened, but they are found in large quantity in that particular area only. They are not found in the other places around the world. Then they are to be conserved at the first attempt. So, priority must be given to the species which are local, which are found in a particular area only, and they are not found at the other area of the world. So, if we can find these kind of areas, it is called hotspot. There are only 34 hotspots found around the world, entire globe. We have 3 hotspots in India. Number 1, Western Ghat and Sri Lanka. Number 2, Indo-Burma, and number 3, Himalayan region. So, these are the biodiversity regions which are extremely threatful with respect to their species, and those species are local species which are found only in that particular area, nowhere else. And that is why it is important for us to keep them conserved. Please take the screenshot. This is the picture showing the Western Ghat. This is the picture showing the Himalayan landscape. Fine. The last point of this chapter is the international concern which are made for sustenance and conservation of biodiversity. So, which are main international concerns? What is shown till now? So, we have few examples which are given into the textbook, which are actually showing the particular concern, international concern with respect to biodiversity. So, in 1992, first example what we can see is in 1992 in Rio de Janeiro, one summit, that is meeting, held for conservation purpose. Now, it is for the conservation of biodiversity and sustainable use of biodiversity, so that we can have biodiversity for longest possible time. So, that is why sustainable word is getting utilized. So, the major focus for discussion with reference to either conservation or sustainability is sharing benefit of utilization of genetic resources. This is the concern area why this meeting was important. We are getting the benefit, we are supposed to get the benefit for the longer period of the time from species, genetical resources, those are species, but it has to be for longer possible period of the time. Now, if suppose we put pressure on a particular species, then that species will be no longer existed on the earth for longer period of the time. So, it will be existent. So, extinction of the species leads to extinction of so many other species as well, as we have discussed into the earlier lectures in earlier chapters. So they are interconnected and they put pressure on the other species as well. If a single species is getting out of the entire chain or web. So we are about to share the benefit or utilization of genetical resources, but with a particular limitation so that we can conserve them for the future generations as well. So that was the main motto of the Earth Summit, which was held in Rio de Janeiro in 1992, that is in Brazil. Please take the screenshot. This is the picture. And the other example which is given here is the World Summit. Now the World Summit, which is again on sustainable development, which is held on in 2002 in Johannesburg, South Africa. Now in this meeting 190 countries get together to pledge to reduce the current rate of biodiversity loss. We have gone through the rate of the loss of biodiversity in this chapter. If the current rate of biodiversity continues, we are going to lose half of the species on the earth within 100 years. So it is hugely threatening situations which are found right now. So it is immediately we are supposed to stop all the activities which are actually threatening the species this extent. So that is why in 2002 immediate summit was held, organized, and that is why the countries, they have pledged to reduce the current rate of biodiversity loss. So biodiversity is not only for the economical importance, but also for the sake of our survival on the earth. So if we wish to continue the life on the earth for the longest possible period of the time, we are supposed to conserve the nature much possible. So with this idea and with this pledge, we are ending this chapter, this session. So take care and have a nice time.